Hey everyone, welcome back to a new video. I hope you had a great day. Let's take a look at some new malicious compliance stories where people conform to the letter but not the spirit of a request. The first story is called Third World Country Shenanigans. A couple of years ago, I worked for a real estate company as the manager of its co-living division. Think of it as a living arrangement where the company leases the apartment from the property owner, remodels it and then subleases to multiple tenants by the room. It's legal in my country. The owner of the company, let's call him Rick, had a tendency to misguide company funds. As such, he was constantly late on rent payments to the owners. One night he calls me and tells me that as manager, my responsibilities now include coordinating rent payments. I think nothing of it, because it's a simple enough task and it doesn't take much time. What he didn't tell me was that he called every single property owner and told them that he was too busy, so I was now in charge of paying their rent. And that if it was too late, they should talk to me. Fast forward a couple of weeks and Mr. Rick is still misguiding company funds. So there isn't any money for paying rent, even though I know for a fact we are generating enough revenue. Owners are constantly calling me during weekends and nights, so I don't answer the phone because it's not working hours. Rick calls me on a weekend and he's very upset. It seems that owners can reach me at their convenience, so instead they are calling him. He tells me it's my job to answer the phone every single time and tell them what's going on with the rent payment. So I say, okay sure, sorry, and we hang up. Enter malicious compliance. Next time an owner calls me up, he nicely asks, "Hey, I just wanted to know what's going on with my rent payment. Can you please give me a date or any info?" And I pretty much say, "I'm sorry sir, we had the money in the account and my boss took it for unknown reasons. Unfortunately, I don't know when and if that money will be back in the account. So I suggest you ask him directly." I do the same for about 5 days with every owner that calls me, as I now make sure to answer every single call that I get, even if it's outside working hours. By next weekend, my boss has a voicemail inbox full of angry property owners asking what he's doing with the money he's supposed to pay them. Apparently, he was using it to remodel his own apartment and buy a new car for his wife. They are threatening to sue the company because of what I told them. He was livid, suspended me without pay, to which I replied with my resignation, and the company went under a few months later. I later found out that one of the owners showed up at his house, literally wielding a giant stick. When the doorman refused to let him in, he yelled on the street until neighbors came out and the police showed up. Rick tried to blame the whole thing on me, even telling owners that I ran away with their money, but pretty much no one believed him. The best part, he had promised to make me a partner, but didn't. If he had, then I would have been liable for all of this, but he was a selfish Rick and got what he deserved. Oh, and before anyone tells me I should have sued or called the police on him, bear in mind this is in a third world country, so there's literally no point. The next story is called Go Kathy. I just saw yesterday one of the funniest and greatest petty revenge on a rude customer at the corner store. I was not part of this, just a witness. I went to the corner store to pick up some milk. I was third in line and the man at the till was being rude to Kathy. See, Kathy has Down syndrome but can do most tasks anyone else can. Sometimes a bit slower, but there are things she's good at. Packing bags was like watching a professional Tetris player getting everything in its place. The till is where she was a bit slower. Numbers always threw her off. The rude guy was paying for some gas, cigarettes and a couple of monster drinks. Kathy scanned the monsters, but it didn't come up with the sale price. It was supposed to be 2 for a certain price, but if you ring them separately for some reason, it rang them up at the usual price each. Her trainer was teaching her how to correct it, so she said to the rude guy, "It will only be a second. Sorry for the mix-up." Now, I don't know if the rude guy was having a bad day or was just a total jerk, but his next words stopped everyone in listening distance to stop and stare. Well, if they didn't hire people like you, things might just get done right. Kathy looked at him, still with a huge smile, as if the comment was never made. The mistake was fixed and she gave him the correct total. And here is where Kathy got her malicious compliance. The rude guy kept putting his card in the reader, but it never worked. He said, "Your machine is broken, it won't read my card, it must be as broken as you are." He tried another 2 times and was about to rant more when Kathy looked him square in the face and said these beautiful words. "I may be different and the machine may be broken, but at least we aren't so stupid to try to use a Medicare card to pay for things. Too bad you can't say that." That is when he looked and sure enough it was the wrong card. Using his bank card he paid and started leaving when Kathy called behind him. If you lost your car in the parking lot, I can help you find it. After all, I'm just different and not stupid. I can imagine that would have cost most people their job, but I think Kathy will come out of this unscathed. Perhaps a talking to, but nothing more. The third story is called For the Sake of 3 Minutes. I worked in the tourism sector in a museum as a hands-on historian and actor. Our job was to expand on attacks and exhibitions, play games with the kids, answer questions and be general fans of useless knowledge. 8 of us, and we had medieval characters, wore costumes and were generally well received. It was hokey and corny, but fun. Hardly a stellar paying job, but we all loved what we did, knew a lot and worked hard to make sure guests were happy. Until our old boss had to leave due to family issues and we got a new one. A real corporate manager. Before she arrived, our old boss was pretty lax. He didn't have to be breathing over our shoulders as he knew we did our jobs. We had a clocking in machine and the rule was logging out 3 minutes early or late didn't affect our pay. Because we enjoyed the work, we always come in early, clock in, not being paid, to set everything up. We had to get dressed, set up the games, make sure the activities were out, general maintenance stuff. This took time. Occasionally, we ended up staying late if something unexpected came up. Again, no problem. When the new boss started, she didn't straight away start making changes, but she was watching us. Our work is obviously dependent on how much human traffic we have. If there are no patrons, there's nothing for us to do. The flip side was that when it was busy, we didn't have time to blink. She called us into a meeting and said that it wasn't suitable that during the quiet time we were standing around talking. We should be engaging in some kind of work, like cleaning, tidying or picking up rubbish. Despite that, we had a team that did that. So it was work for work's sake. To justify our wages, as we weren't being paid to chat. It was explained to her by our unofficial team leader that you're not just paying for our labor, but our time as well. She did not like or understand this idea. But we made ourselves look busy. She also believed that she knew the job better than we did. She stopped listening to our suggestions and started making little words of what we could and couldn't tell people regarding the history. Nothing too gruesome, for instance. Ever met children? They love the gory details, age appropriate of course. There's a reason why horrible histories is so popular. The second issue cued the malicious compliance. Again, another meeting. This time over the 3-minute early clock out. That we were paid until 17, not 16:57. That our hours were 10 to 17. No mention of us clocking in early. So we did just that. No one clocked out before 5. But no one clocked out after 5:01 either. Nor did we clock in early anymore. More than once she saw us standing at the clock-in machine at 9:55. She asked us to clock in. We said no, that it wasn't time. She tried telling us that we should be in early to prepare, regardless of whether we are being paid. We told her no, working without pay is not what we are doing. This meant that those 20 to 25 minutes per person set up were now being done once we were clocked in. No longer was the museum ready when the doors opened. Early morning patrons noticed. Because of her make them work every second regardless, it also meant the team was often scarce. We would be moving rubbish, filling leaflet shelves, getting rid of cleaning instruments and also sometimes just hiding to get 5 minutes of peace. Morale also fell, so we followed the letter but not the spirit of the job description. We frankly stopped caring as we didn't feel valued. I don't know what it's like now, as the entire team left within 9 months. As far as I know, she's still there, don't know how she's running the ship. But none of us has been back. The last story is called Don't Mess with the Ambulance. I was in an apartment building for work earlier today when I saw an ambulance pull up to the front door and 2 paramedics come out. I opened the door to let them inside and they proceeded up to the unit of the call. I wasn't deliberately eavesdropping, but there was a paper thin so I could hear the entire conversation. Did you call for an ambulance? Yeah, I'm feeling kind of anxious and I need them to give me something to calm me down. You do realize the hospital is right across the street, right? Yeah, but I didn't want to walk. This building is literally across the street from the hospital, separated by a seldom used road. I don't mean down the road or a couple of blocks away. You can literally see the front entrance of the hospital from the front door of the apartment building. If I'm being generous, it's about 100 meters door to door. Normally, an ambulance costs money. But this individual was forthcoming enough to inform the paramedics that he was on government assistance and that the program covered ambulance costs for transport to the nearest hospital. The paramedics were audibly annoyed at the situation, essentially being used as a free taxi to get across the street in the rain for a non-emergency. But they end up taking this guy down to the ambulance. When I finally left the building several minutes later, the paramedics were still sitting outside with the patient, doing their assessment, hooking him up to a blood pressure and pulse monitor. The patient was annoyed that they wouldn't just drop him off at the hospital. But policies are policies, and the paramedics could be liable when a medical emergency would occur en route to the hospital. As I drove away, they were still sitting outside. A part of me hopes they are still out there, assessing, hours later. Perhaps the patient will learn his lesson about calling an ambulance for mundane health concerns and will elect to walk to the hospital next time. That's probably wishful thinking though. And now it's your time to shine. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories? I hope you enjoyed today's video. And I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.